So we got that gamer setup today. We got the boom mic, got the headphones. Now, I'm not trying to be a react channel by any means, but every once in a while I might see a video that I think is worth talking about. Like today, there was a video from Jubilee. It's called 1 Vegan versus 20 Meat Eaters. Now, normally I wouldn't really think too much about it, but I did see a short where one of the participants was a Christian, and I decided to watch the full video just to see what's going on and maybe elaborate on it a bit more, talk about what's going on, and maybe try to give some more my thoughts as well. This is about halfway into the video, I believe. This is halfway about the video. Let's see what happens.
How's it going, buddy? What's your name?
I'm David.
Nice to meet you, David.
Jack, right?
How you doing?
I'm good. So, you mentioned that you see killing animals and meat eating as trivial pleasures, correct?
Yeah.
So, I just wanted to ask you, are you religious in any way?
The religious would say I'm not, and the atheist would say I'm not an atheist either. I'm what you call a pantheist. I believe God and the world are identical. And obviously the Christians, the Jews, the Muslims have told us that that's not Abrahamic. And the atheist would say it's ridiculous to call the world God. So I'm sort of religiously homeless. But I consider myself to be a pantheist and a religious believer.
Okay, no problem.
Trivially speaking. Go on.
I'm personally Christian.
Hey, great, cool.
Yeah, so I wanted to say that killing animals, it's not something that's binary. It's not something that's a trivial pleasure. That's something that you keep mentioning. That
do you believe in the Bible?
Yes.
And you're not.
Okay. Just want to make it very clear that Jubilee is known for being a little rage baity. You know, they call themselves open-minded, try to bring in people of other perspectives on to see if they can agree or disagree. But at the end of the day, they don't do a very good job of facilitating these kinds of conversations. So it just ends up being rage bait, and I think they know that at this point. You know, it's kind of like it's not what they were going for, but they've kind of accepted it. I feel like we're gonna see a bit of that today.
In the Bible, in Genesis, it mentions that animals, they were created for humans to consume.
Genesis 1:29, the first teaching on it, God gives human beings a strictly vegetarian diet.
God also says in the Bible, in Genesis, that animals are meant to be consumed and killed by people.
After we sin. So God creates the world. Genesis 1:29, he says we're allowed to eat fruits and trees that bear seeds. Then the original sin, i.e. evil, enters the world. And at the end of time,
Yeah, they're both correct to say that. When God first created the earth, in the Garden of Eden, no one was eating the animals or even each other. Everyone was supposed to be like vegetarian, but after the fall, animals started eating each other. And then after Noah's Ark, we started eating meat as well. Although I'm sure there were people before that were also eating meat. Who knows, right?
I'm saying that has nothing to do with eating.
At the end of time, Isaiah 11, the lion will eat straw with the ox. So it's almost as if on the Christian tradition, the whole world is sandwiched together in veganism. God creates the world perfectly. We sin and live in sin. And at the end of time, we're brought together with God in vegetarianism again.
Okay, so let's go back to that topic of Isaiah, where the lion eats straw with the ox. This is a very famous passage in Isaiah. For the most part, it is supposed to be like a metaphor of how things will be restored the way they were back when the Garden of Eden was still a thing. I wouldn't take it literally, to be honest, as to say the lions will start eating plants, but it's just the way of describing how there will be no more sin, no more death. So I guess if you want to make a bit of a stretch and say people will be vegetarian, animals will be vegetarian again, sure, but I think you're missing the bigger picture here, right? It's about Jesus coming back and restoring the world to the way it was.
Okay. Like I was saying,
so you should be a vegetarian.
It's not exclusively vegan. I'm not going to be a vegetarian.
It is vegan. It's exclusively vegan. Genesis 1:29 is vegan.
Noah's Ark.
I don't know what that guy in the white sweater is going on about. It's kind of distracting.
Ark was made for a purpose, correct? Right? So Noah, he was brought to earth. He was brought
punishing human beings for their sin. Okay. And he punishes the animals.
He was brought to earth and he was creating a ship, and he made all these animals come on a ship for them to survive and carry out their life.
Yeah.
Receiving all those nutrients from the animals, receiving all the benefits. And you know, they have side products too. They have byproducts, right? Animals that create all these, as you say, it's meant for trivial pleasures. They create a lot of byproducts that are helping with medicine.
Yeah, that's a different.
That are helping with clothing,
on the Christian argument. God did create the world vegetarian.
Because you keep mentioning that all these people are dying because people are eating meat, correct? But people are also surviving because people are eating meat. I think the trade-offs for eating meat and
so why did God create the world that way?
I don't have all the answers. I'm not God. I'm not God.
Okay. So there's a question right there. Why did God create the world that way, as in a world where we have to eat animals and use animal products? I mean, the answer is pretty straightforward to start off. It's because of sin, the fall of man, That the world became corrupted, and we just started using animals for various things, including food, including clothes. When they got kicked out of the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve were wearing fig leaves, but they were replaced with leather clothes. Right? God killed these animals to cover their bodies. It's kind of like a symbol of Jesus dying to cover our sins. Right? If you want to talk about why God made the world as is, yes, God did create the world to be perfect. If you're talking about that, why the world is the way it is now, it's less about God and more about what we're doing. It's because our sin that the world has fallen into this mess, and it's through our continued actions that we live through today that things like factory farming are still going on.
That's great, perfect.
I'm not God. That's not the basis of my argument either. I'm just saying that animals have a lot more benefits as opposed to negative.
I'm on your.
I'm telling you right now.
I'm on your side. I'm on your side. I'm saying
animals have a lot more benefits as opposed to negatives. And you're talking about it's
if God
trivial.
created the world
it's not trivial. That's from a very binary sense of thinking.
I guess you can argue that domesticated animals do live far better than their wild relatives. Like if you think about dogs are a good example. The reason wolves were domesticated into dogs because they wanted a little snack from humans, and then they liked it. They liked the warm fire. I would say dogs have a much easier life compared to wolves. It's the same thing with pigs, cows, compared them to like wild boars, like it's like wild cows, bison, buffalo. I'm not saying factory farming is a good way of showcasing those benefits, but I am saying domestication of animals has made their lives as well as our lives a lot easier.
If God creates the world perfectly and then we sin, definitionally, it's worse to eat meat than not to eat meat. But there's a separate argument as well.
You spoke yourself about utilitarianism, correct?
Yeah.
Is it not benefiting a greater number of people to eat meat, to consume meat, and to have all those byproducts of meat, to help many people with medicine, with clothing,
because
with
it destroys
different
the
types
planet,
of food?
it destroys wildlife.
Is it not better?
We're supposed to...
Yeah, I mean, it is bad for the environment. I know what factory farming does, like especially with like waste byproducts, and it really shouldn't be like that. Like it shouldn't exist in the first place. When we are called to be stewards of this earth, that means we have to take care of things. Factory farming is not the way to do that. I do wish we would go towards the way of sustainability, where instead of doing factory farming, we just downscale a little bit, and that would require people just to eat less meat, which I feel like isn't going to happen anytime soon. I feel like the ideal way of eating meat would be like still have agriculture, still have animals, livestock being raised, but also supplemented with hunting.
As opposed to
we're
not
supposed to be stewards of the earth.
No,
According to Robert Goodman, 51% of all climate change is caused by the animal agriculture industry. There is no way that on a Christian worldview you can justify
51%?
factory farming.
Yeah, exactly. It's hard to justify. I'm trying to figure out what David is going for here. Like it sounds like he's like trying to justify factory farming, which is a difficult stance to have. I feel like a better argument he could make is that factory farming is bad. It's just not one of the worst.
The last two popes have both condemned factory farming in their own words. It is not a Christian worldview. David Clough, the Christian theologian, the evangelist he calls himself, has made this case very strongly. But there's a separate argument as well, very briefly. In Revelations 20, God cast down Satan to hell for all of eternity for the things that Satan did. There is a great chain of being on Christianity. God, angels, humans, non-human animals, plants. When the angels sin and exploit the people below them, such as Satan leading humanity astray in the Garden of Eden.
Exploit the people below them.
Yeah, leads them astray, creates evil. Then God punishes them. So he punishes the angels, even though they're more rational, have more free will, have more powers, and they're closer to God in the great chain of being.
At the moment, yes. We do believe that angels are close to God. They are his celestial servants, and they have powers that we don't have. In terms of free will, no, I wouldn't say angels have the same free will that we do, because at the end of the day, they are the ones who are completely obedient to God. That implies that there's not a free will thing for them. We are, as his creation, as his children, we do have that free will. And yes, right now, while we're still alive, we are technically lower than angels in terms of like physical status, but at the end of days, where we are resurrecting our second bodies, and when we are impaired, we will be higher than the angels, because angels are servants, we are his children. Children of the master will always be higher than his servants. I think I understand like the rationale he's trying to get at. He's trying to compare like how higher beings are being punished by mistreating lower beings. So since we're higher up than animals and plants, we will be punished for mistreating animals again. Like animal abuse, that's not something I condone ever. I do believe it is a bad thing. So I'm not disagreeing with him, but I'm just a little hesitant to agree with the way he is saying it.
punishes them for hurting humans, he will punish humans too for hurting animals. God loves even the sparrows, Matthew 10, Matthew 12.
I don't believe
God,
that.
what do you mean you don't believe? It's the Bible. It's your...
Yeah, that's kind of crazy. I don't know why you're saying you don't believe that. He's not essentially really taking anything out of context. He's just oversimplifying things. But again, like it's not that he is a theologian. Jack isn't a theologian. He is a doctor of something. If you want to say you disagree what he's saying because he doesn't have a good understanding of that ranking of creation, okay, I mean that's fine, but you can't just say I don't believe that, I don't believe that, I don't believe that. That makes you sound a little bit more disingenuous. And going back to Matthew chapter 10, what Jack is referring to is that scripture where Jesus says, look at the sparrows out in the fields. If God will take care of even a sparrow who is worth like 2 cents, how much more do you think he cares about you? So yes, God does take care of animals, obviously, but that's, again, it feels like he's taking it out of context here as well.
Well,
but Genesis, it does not say that.
You don't believe the Bible then?
Okay,
that's not what I'm saying.
Genesis 1:29 does say that.
Pause.
That
You've been voted out by the majority.
Pick it out.
Please return to your seat.
So that's the end of the segment. And he doesn't really appear in any future prompts as well, which is unfortunate. I wouldn't mind hearing a bit more about what they have to say. Okay, let's go back to what Jack is saying. So he is saying because the world was created to be like in a vegetarian state, and because the Book of Revelation also says that everything will return to that vegetarian state, that we should all be vegetarian or vegan. I have a really big problem with that, mainly because it feels very similar to the Tower of Babel. Remember how they wanted to get close to God, so they built this tower as if that would make them equal to God. To say that we have to go back to being vegan because that's how the way the world used to be. Again, like, why are we trying to fix the world as if we can actually do something like that? Can we fix the world and make it back to the way it was? No, because if we could, we would have done it already. Right? We are stuck in this world right now as it is. People eat animals, animals eat animals. You don't have to like it, but to say that we need to go back to the way it was, to go back to the way it was created before because that's how it used to be. Again, that's not for us to do so. Not even that we should do, or like we can't even do it because we can't. So that is not a great argument for Jack to make. So having said that, let's go back to the original argument. Factory farming is one of the worst atrocities in history. I would say factory farming is definitely harmful to the environment, and I do hate seeing animals suffer in that environment. I've seen videos of it before, but to say it is one of the worst, again, that's a bit of a stretch. Let's go back to that hierarchy. I think Jack did say at another point in the video. I think what Jack is trying to get at is animal suffering is on the same level of human suffering. Like suffering is sounds fair. But if you go by order of creation, we are created as a higher being compared to animals. And that's how we are called to steward them. And to say that animal suffering is equivalent to human suffering, I think that's just taking a step too far. We are bringing them up to our level, or maybe we're just bringing ourselves down to the level of animals. Again, he's not a Christian, so he's allowed to believe in that. But as a Christian, I would say we were created on a higher status to be closer to God's image, right? Made in the image of God. To say that animal suffering is the same as human suffering, it's a little dehumanizing. Like, I wonder what he has to say in terms of the worst atrocities. Would he say like World War I, World War II are atrocities? Maybe like the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the Holocaust. I mean, you want to talk about something recent, maybe like the files. They're all terrible things. No one's going to argue on that. But these are all perpetrated by humans towards other humans. And I don't know if I could say factory farming is equivalent to those. If you could talk to a World War II vet, someone who survived the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and you say, hey, these animals and these factory farms, they're going through the same thing as you are. Like, I doubt they'll agree with you. And I think that's the problem here. We can't compare ourselves to animals in that way because it just doesn't make any sense. I don't know how this video is set up, how the guests come here and like how they prepare, but I think Daniel as a whole, and I think he tried. He was very polite, which I appreciated. When in these videos, people get very fired up most of the time for no good reason. They're fired up for the sake of being fired up. It creates that drama. It's rage bait. It is like S tier rage bait, but it was more or less pretty under control by Jubilee standards. I do appreciate David coming out like this and sharing his thoughts. I have nothing against him. I think he did his best given what he had, given the situation. And again, like, I don't completely disagree with Jack either. I do think factory farming is bad, but to use the Bible as an argument in the way he does it, yeah, I'm gonna have to disagree with that. Taking things out of context, slightly out of context, and trying to fix the world for it to be the way God intended to be when we don't have the power to do that right now, that's a bit of a stretch. Personally, in my opinion, yeah, it's pretty bad, but it's not like human suffering bad. And I would say it's basically unnecessary evil in this point in time. It is hard to get people to eat less meat, right? Like for me, like I work out, like I try to work out 5 days a week. And because of that, my protein intake is a lot higher than the average person. Like we're talking 150-ish grams. And my body right now is about 182. That is considered moderate, but that's only because I work out. For anyone else, eating 150 grams of protein, that is overkill. Like someone my weight, if they don't work out, they can survive on 80, maybe even 60 grams of protein a day, and they'll be fine. But we're just like putting protein in everything, even when they don't need to have protein. And that just creates that negative loop where we eat more protein, and because we need to eat more protein, we need to create more products of protein, which involve animals, and it's not great. But I think that's the end of the video for today. Hey, if you like this kind of format, let me know. If you don't, also let me know. That helps as well. I hope you enjoyed and maybe you learned something new. And feel free to watch the full video. I'll leave a link in the comments, or the description. Thanks for watching, and keep fighting the good fight.